I'm here today to talk to you about third-party websites in terms of flights and why you should never, ever book them. I never do this, maybe just this once, everything will be fine. There was an announcement and they said there's something wrong with the airplane, we're going to have to emergency land somewhere. I was very, very paranoid about bedbugs because there's a huge bedbug issue in a lot of cities across the world at the moment, in hotels. God, this has really turned into a rant now. You do not want that stuff to be happening while you're just trying to get to your destination. Hello and welcome to another episode of These Corners of the World Travel Podcast. I am your host, Kelly O'Brien, and I'm a little less professional looking today because I don't have my headphones. I cannot find them. Doesn't matter, not going to let it stop me. And I'm also a bit sweaty because I just got in from a paddle match, which is, if you don't know, like a kind of like tennis, but there's two players on each side instead of one. Very fun, very exhausting. I'm here today to talk to you about third-party websites in terms of flights and why you should never, ever book them. I actually just a minute ago went to ChatGPT and said, give me like a sample script for a podcast episode about, not booking flights through third-party websites. And it gave me complete crap. So I'm just going to tell you about my own experience that I had recently last month. And it will be a warning lesson for all of you that I unfortunately, I say had to learn, but I did know this beforehand. I was kind of, my hand was forced a little bit last month. I needed to go from Malaga to Split, Croatia, because I had like a project to do, funded by like a European commission, went there to a co-working space to learn about greenification. Anyway, that's not important. I had to go there, very set dates. When this was being all organized, I had looked up, is it easy to get from Malaga to Split, Croatia? And it was, but I hadn't realized that apparently after summer, the airlines drop off dramatically and it is a lot harder to get to in off season. Comes time to book the flights, everything's agreed, the project is funded, the dates are set. Very hard to get a direct flight, actually impossible to get a direct flight. So I had to look at third-party websites because there wasn't anything great coming up on, anywhere else. The only thing I could really do that I could afford was to get a kiwi.com deal, or it wasn't even a deal, just going through kiwi.com to get a flight from Malaga to Paris, France, and a connecting flight from Paris to Split, Croatia, with Vueling. Do the project, stay in Split, return with EasyJet, and go from Croatia, Split, Croatia to Geneva, Switzerland, connect there, and then fly back to Malaga, Spain. I was like, I have not had great experiences in the past with third-party websites for flights, but, maybe just this once, I never do this, maybe just this once, everything will be fine and it will be okay. Because when things go okay, when you book flights on third-party websites like this, everything goes okay. The problem only comes if you have any problems, and then that's when you kind of enter into this limbo, this no man's land, and nobody really wants to deal with you. Like the third party website won't want to deal with you and your problem, and then the airline won't want to deal with you, and both of them will say, talk to the other one. It's like two parents saying, talk to your mother, talk to your father, and then you don't get anything in the middle. That was probably a bad analogy, but whatever, I went there. What happened to me, my flight took off from Malaga on time, and in the air, I'm not sure how long later, maybe half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, there was an announcement and they said there's something wrong with the airplane, we're going to have to emergency land somewhere. And that somewhere turned out to be Bilbao, which is in the north of Spain. I was like, oh, great. Okay, here we go. We emergency landed. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was. It was some issue that there was like a sensor off in the cabin that if there was a fire, the cockpit wouldn't know because the sensor isn't working. So I don't think it was, we weren't in any danger. It wasn't like emergency landing. It was some specific thing that would probably have been fine, but they needed to emergency land just in case. They said they'd either fix it on the ground or that we would change plane. So we landed. We're sitting on the runway for a while. At this stage, I'm like, we could still make the connecting flight. It's okay. And if you hear noises in the background, I have a very active cat and the sun has just set. She's very crepuscular and she will probably make some noise. Hopefully she won't bite my legs, but if she does, you'll see her on screen, I think, as I pick her up and put her out. Anyway, the flight landed and they said, we can't fix it. We're going to have to change airplane. We changed airplane in Bilbao and we're still just stuck there sitting on the runway because, I don't really know. I guess we didn't have a slot because we weren't even supposed to be there. In the end, we got to Paris 3 hours later than we were supposed to. More than 3 hours later, actually. And it was about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. My cat is very loud. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to pause and let her do her business and come back to this in a second. Okay, she is done. I was saying that we arrived in Paris 3 hours later than we should have. And we had missed our connecting flight to Split, Croatia. It is about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night. While on the plane, I had befriended a woman who was also traveling to Split, Croatia on the exact same flight that me and my boyfriend were taking. She had booked directly through Vueling and we had booked through Kiwi.com. And for some reason, Kiwi had booked our flights in 2 separate bookings instead of together. Don't know why. Maybe it was cheaper for them. I have no idea. But it comforted, is that a word? Comfort. It was of some comfort on the flight to know that there was another woman going to our destination and that we would all get sorted out on the ground in Paris. We landed. Vueling staff were there to welcome this woman that I had befriended with open arms, and they handed her a flight for the next day, said there's none today. You can fly tomorrow to Split via Rome. Here's your ticket. Here is the name of the hotel we're putting you in tonight. And here is a voucher for dinner. And we were like, what about us? And they were like, nope, just for her. That's all. You can talk to customer service if you feel like it. And I was like, this is just the start of it now. This is, we're not going to get anything here. But, we still tried. We went to the customer service and we explained a couple of times, and we didn't roll over easily. I was pissed. I was annoyed. I wasn't disrespectful because people are just doing their jobs, but I wasn't backing down very easily. So I did try my best to, get them to get us on their flight the next day because it was their fault. It was their airline's issue that caused us to be 3 hours late. And both of our flights were with Vueling. We were flying to Paris with Vueling and from Paris with Vueling. So what's the issue? This woman had the exact same itinerary and she was sorted out with absolutely everything. And we were just the poor relations. Get in the corner. We don't want to see you. We don't want to deal with you. They said, talk to Kiwi. So we called Kiwi. Well, I chatted them on the phone, they have a chat customer service. And to be fair, they were very responsive, but they didn't, help us. Then we called them and it was my boyfriend actually, because at this stage I was annoyed even more. So I was like, can you just deal with this part? He was on the phone with the Kiwi.com representative and again, not much help. Certainly didn't rebook a flight. They said you can cancel your booking and get a refund. I think the refund was for something very, very small, though. It wasn't a refund of the full amount. And we obviously didn't want to cancel our whole booking because we had return flights, right? We had to get from Croatia back, to Geneva and then Geneva to Malaga. So we were like, God, we can foresee issues if we cancel our booking that they're not going to honor the flight we have return, which is a fair, concern. Basically, Kiwi did nothing for us. Vueling did nothing for us. And we are sitting on the floor of the airport in Paris, Charles de Gaulle. Was it Charles de Gaulle? Oh, no, it was the other one. What was the other one? Orly. That's where we were. And we were just like, we're just going to have to do this ourselves. We're just going to have to sort this out. There were tears. I had cried. I was frustrated and, pulled myself together. I was like, look, it's fine. Told everybody in Croatia who were waiting for us, we're not going to get there today. We're not going to get there early tomorrow. We'll be there the following day to see you in the office at 9. So basically lost out on a whole day of the project. We did stay a day later because the project was supposed to end and we had a couple of days to see Croatia as tourists. So we extended it by one day. We saw less of Croatia as a result, but the project had to come first. That part was fine. The accommodation, we had accommodation booked in Split. We obviously weren't making it that night. So we did lose out on that first night's accommodation. It was a casualty of war. That's fine. I shouldn't say that actually. No, it was a casualty of the situation. And what we did was I went on booking.com, which I love that site. And I booked a night for 2 people at the airport, near the airport, in Paris, in Orly. I was very, very paranoid about bedbugs because there's a huge bedbug issue in a lot of cities across the world at the moment in hotels. And Paris, I think London or New York, but Paris seems to be one of the worst affected. So I was quite worried. So I spent a good few minutes on all of the airport hotel reviews. I should say, some of you might be thinking, if anyone even listens to this, some of you might be thinking, oh, why not enjoy a fun, random, spontaneous night in Paris? Ooh la la. Stay in a hotel in Paris, wake up to the Eiffel Tower. I had been to Paris about a month before this. Same airport. I was alone. It was a solo trip. I did a house swap with a girl in Paris. Lovely girl called Samara. She came to my house and, she came to the place that I'm renting in Spain and I went to the place that she's renting in Paris. Beautiful week on my own. I spent a lot of time just, drinking in cafes. I don't drink alcohol, drinking coffee in cafes and going around the Eiffel Tower and all the usual spots with a tripod and a phone. And I'm not afraid to admit it, I changed outfit at the Eiffel Tower 3 times just to get different photos in different locations. That might be quite extra, but hey, it's my life. That's what I wanted to do. You can see the photos on my Instagram at these corners of the world, funnily enough, if you want to see them. So I was, tired, emotional. It's probably after 9 p.m. at this point. It's probably 9:30 or 10 even. The last thing I wanted to do was go and have a spontaneous night in Paris since I'd just been there a month before. My boyfriend also had no interest. He was like, I just want to go to bed. I just want to eat and go to bed. And I was like, okay, let's stay near the airport. So I booked a place, the only place near the airport that didn't have any reviews of bed bugs. Every other one did. Not going to name drop here because, bed bug issues can get resolved. I don't want to diss anybody, but there was only one hotel that didn't have bed bug reviews. And, we went and we were super meticulous about looking under the mattresses and stuff, and I did not see any bed bugs. So I'm fairly happy, fairly confident. When I came home, I did do some bed bug preventative measures just in case. I bagged up all my stuff in the hallway. I put it in the freezer for 4 days and then I took it out and I washed it. So even if there had been bed bugs, I'm pretty sure I didn't bring them home with me. This is an aside to saying how basically we had to alone just regroup and get some other plan. So we had accommodation for the night and then I went on Skyscanner and I looked for what is the next flight that I can get to Split. If it has to be a connecting flight, that's fine. We'll deal with it. When can I get there? And how much is it going to cost me? Because, this is a flight for like either same day or next day. And I was prepared for it to be hundreds of euro. And I think in most cases it would have been, but I think we actually got really lucky because I found a Transavia. Is that how you pronounce it? Transavia? Transavia, I'm going to go with. We found a Transavia flight for 80 euros one way each. Direct. From Paris to Split for the very next day. It was in the evening, but it wasn't, it was great. It was direct. So booked that, yeah, and went to the hotel, had some food, went to sleep, got up late the next day, worked from, the reception in the hotel, got the transfer back to the same airport, flew with Transavia to Split, bish bash boom, we're in Split, everything goes great from then on. And I must say also the return flight that we got via kiwi.com from Split to Geneva, connecting there and getting back to Malaga. Everything went fine there. That was with EasyJet. I think I just said that actually. Love EasyJet. They're great. I've always had problems with Vueling, I must say. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about Vueling. So this is as much a rant about Vueling as it is via third-party websites like kiwi.com. They're both at fault because Vueling is, I don't think it's great. Kiwi.com should have helped us, basically. They have this thing that they put on their website to try and make people feel at ease. The Kiwi.com guarantee, even if you miss your connection, everything's going to be fine. It's literally there in plain English on their website that if you have a problem with your connecting flight, we'll sort it out. They didn't. They haven't. Having come back from the experience, this is last month, I went mental with, how can I stick it to these people who have messed me over, like caused emotional distress. Everything did work out in the end, but it was frustrating. And it did cost us money, time, energy, a lot of stuff. I had to go and redo the dates of this project that I was even doing. So I applied on Vueling's website for compensation for the flight that I paid for and missed. I applied for compensation for the night's accommodation and the dinner that we had to, because we missed the flight, we had to stay in Paris for a night. So for that night, I had to do all these separately. I don't really know why. It wasn't a very straightforward process. And then the third compensation I did, again on Vueling's website, but it was an EU law that if a flight is more than 3 hours delayed, that you're supposed to get compensation X amount. I don't know exactly how much, is a few €100. It's depending on how long the delay is and how far away the airports are from each other. And I worked it out that it would have covered the cost of everything if we had just gotten the refund or the compensation of the EU law thing. So all of those have been resolved so far. To be fair, within the month, Vueling did get back, but they said no to everything. They said, nope, not paying for, not giving you a refund for the flight that you missed, not giving you a refund of the night's accommodation and the dinner. No, we're not even giving you the compensation that you're, to be honest, we are supposed to get that under EU law. The only get out of jail free card there that they have is that it's act of God kind of thing, that they couldn't foresee it. However, I'm going to appeal that because under their own website, it says, and under EU law, it says that airplane maintenance, it's not an act of God. If something goes wrong with the plane, it probably should have been caught before you took off. And that goes under airplane maintenance. It's not an act of God. That was foreseeable. You could have prevented that. So I'm going to appeal that, and I don't care how many times, God, this has really turned into a rant now. I don't care how many times I have to resubmit that application, I'm going to do it. Anyway, because we booked through Kiwi.com, I also went to them and said, look, I've applied for compensation from Vueling. I'm also going to do it here. Like, what's the situation? So they had like a form and stuff, and I filled out. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't think it's been exactly a month yet, but I've had no correspondence from Kiwi on that at all. Maybe they'll come back. I doubt it. Maybe they will. I'm not holding out hope. To be fair, it wasn't the worst case. We could have had to pay hundreds of euro to get to Croatia last minute. I'm very happy that it was only 80 euros each. But it was very stressful, and it's not like it didn't cost us anything. Like, it did cost us I've already covered that. Time, money, emotion. So basically what I'm saying is I'm never going to fly Vueling again. You make up your own minds about that. I'm certainly never going to use Kiwi.com again. And I'm certainly never going to book flights, definitely not connecting ones, through a third-party website ever again. Because it's just, when things go wrong, you're passed from pillar to post. Nobody wants to deal with you. You have to sort everything out yourself, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth the stress. So you might be asking yourself, what do you do? What should you do? How I get flights is I go to skyscanner.com. Oh my God. Skyscanner was like a massive game changer for me years ago when I discovered it, because basically it's just great for like filters. You can set where you want to go from, where you want to go to. You can like change, well, obviously, but you can also click if you want direct flights or if you don't want direct flights, because often you can get cheaper deals if you have connecting flights. So for example, I don't know how many hundreds of euro I saved, but it was hundreds of euro. A few months ago, had to travel to the United States, and instead of flying from Spain directly to the United States, I connected in Ireland. So I flew from Malaga to Dublin with Aer Lingus, connected there. With Aer Lingus, I flew from Dublin to Chicago, and it was hundreds of euros cheaper. I think entirely that flight leg and the return flight from Chicago to Dublin, Dublin to Malaga, pretty sure it was about 500 euro, one person return, which is actually really, really good. No, actually, sorry, it was 450, 460 euros thereabout. It ended up being about 500 because I needed to change the date and I had to pay a small fee. Anyway, it was way more economical than flying direct. So instead of having to go to different websites of airlines and finding out, you know, what the best combination of flights are, just go to Skyscanner and you put in where you're going from, where you're going to. If you have to have a direct flight, that's fine. You can tick that box. But if you leave it off, they'll come up with combinations for you. If you don't want to fly at a certain time in the morning, let's say the buses to the airport only start at 6 a.m. You can set that filter, you know, don't have any flights that leave earlier than 8, you know, because you need to be there about 2 hours before your flight. So you're not going to get there if the bus isn't running and you don't have any other transport, right? So you can filter that you don't want the flight to leave before 8. You don't want it to get in after a certain hour. And there's all sorts of filters you can click. Basically, skyscanner.com is just a lifesaver. And you can order the results then by, you know, cheapest, fewest connections, whatever your personal preferences are. The thing with that is that Skyscanner will come back with third-party websites as well. So you just have to know not to book it through those, only book it through the airlines themselves. And Skyscanner will highlight, you know, this is an airline so that you can easily see that. I mean, that's why they do it, because they know that it's better for people to book flights directly with the flight company themselves. And yeah, basically that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Not all third-party websites are bad, but for example, Booking.com, love it. They offer great discounts if you're a repeat user of Booking.com. You know, in other areas of life, third-party websites are totally fine. But when it comes to flights, it is just it's a disaster you don't want. It's like waiting to happen, basically. And can you imagine if you were flying with like a family or if you were someone who was taking a trip and you don't normally take trips, like for us, it was relatively okay. Very used to traveling. We're very used to, things going wrong and needing to troubleshoot in the moment. I was sitting on the floor of the airport, whipped out my phone, booking.com, boom, there's like a load of accommodation options that I can book in real time and then just go there. If we weren't like tech savvy, or if we didn't travel a lot, or if we were older, for example, nobody wanted to help us. We had to help ourselves. So if you're in any way, shape or form not comfortable doing those things on the fly in the moment, you do not want that stuff to be happening while you're just trying to get to your destination. And, it could have ruined the whole thing for us. But we, luckily enough, it didn't, and it did work out. But it was almost a disaster. And yeah, basically that's pretty much it. If you have any, topics you'd like me to talk about, then please do send me a message on, probably Instagram is the best way to get me, at These Corners of the World. I am very open to suggestions of what to do with this podcast. My cousin, Mark, shout out to Mark, he messaged me today and said, you know what you could do with the podcast? You could, when you go to places, interview people there, and then you can have a mix of, talking about your own travels, but also, get someone on the podcast to talk about what it's like living in, I don't know, Rome or something, Let me know what you think about that idea. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd have to get maybe a portable like a microphone or a dictaphone with a muff thing on it. So, there'd be some stuff I'd have to get, but I could make it work. I could make it happen if people wanted it. And yeah, that's it for now. I'm going to sign off. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will answer any questions you have in the next episode. Bye.